All right, let's just get right into it. Generative AI is, well, it's everywhere, right? It's in our phones, it's in our search engines, our work software. But here is the big question, the trillion-dollar question, really. With all this hype, with this insane level of adoption, where are the actual tangible business results?
Well, the reality is pretty shocking. Get this, the source material we're looking at today says that more than 80%, 80, of companies using Gen AI are reporting no real material impact on their bottom line. This huge gap between the buzz and the results, that's what we're calling the Gen AI paradox.
So let's unpack this Gen AI paradox. What is going on here? How can a technology this powerful, one that's been rolled out so quickly and so broadly, be having such a tiny impact on how businesses actually perform?
It really boils down to an imbalance. On one hand, you've got what we can call horizontal AI. Think of those co-pilots that get rolled out to every single employee. Yeah, they're super easy to deploy, but the benefits are spread so thin across the company, they're almost impossible to even measure. Then, on the other hand, you have vertical AI. These are the high-impact projects designed for one specific function. But here's the catch. Something like 90% of them never make it out of the pilot phase. They just get stuck.
So how do we actually break out of this trap? Well, the answer seems to lie in a totally new way of thinking, the AI agent. And look, this isn't just another tool. It's a huge shift, a move away from AI that just passively reacts to our commands to an AI that's a truly proactive collaborator.
Okay, so what exactly is an AI agent? Think of it as a goal-driven partner. It's a virtual collaborator that can take a high-level objective, come up with a plan to achieve it, remember the context of what it's doing, carry out a whole series of complex tasks, and, this is the key part, adapt as it gets new information. And it does all of this with very little hand-holding from a human. So let's walk through how this actually works in practice. First, an agent doesn't get a simple task like summarize this page. No, it gets a goal, something big like organize our annual sales conference. From there, it makes its own plan, breaking that huge goal down into smaller, manageable subtasks. Then it actually goes and does them. It interacts with systems, pulls data, maybe even coordinates with people. And most importantly, if something changes, it learns and adapts its plan on the fly. Here's maybe the simplest way to think about this. A standard Gen AI copilot, the kind most of us are using today, it's basically a research assistant. You ask it for a piece of information and it goes and finds it for you. An AI agent, though, is a project manager. You give it the final objective and it handles all the moving parts to actually get you there. It's a huge difference.
Okay, this all sounds pretty amazing in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's jump into a couple of case studies to see how these agents are already changing the game for some core business processes.
First up, let's look at a bank that needs to create credit risk memos. Now, before agents, this was a total grind. It was a slow, painful, completely manual process. A relationship manager would have to spend anywhere from 2 to 4 full days just hunting down information from at least 10 different sources to build a single one of these memos.
Now, enter the agentic approach. The entire workflow gets flipped on its head. The AI agent goes out, automatically pulls all the data it needs from all those sources, and then drafts the complete memo itself. This completely changes the human's job. They're no longer a data gatherer. Their role shifts to what people do best: strategic review, high-level oversight, and dealing with any tricky exceptions. And the results? They were huge. We're talking a 30% faster credit decisioning speed and a potential productivity jump of up to 60%. This wasn't just making things a little bit better, this was a fundamental transformation of how that work gets done.
All right, let's take a look at another massive corporate headache: trying to modernize those old, clunky, legacy computer systems. In this case study, a big bank had a $600 million project that was just stuck. It was bogged down by incredibly slow manual coding that was full of errors. I mean, it was a classic IT nightmare.
So the agentic solution here was to build what the source material calls a digital factory. Instead of just relying on human developers, they created these squads of specialized AI agents. Some agents write code, other agents review that code, and another set of agents test the final product. And all of this is guided by human supervisors who are managing the overall process.
And for the teams that jumped on this new model, they saw the time and effort needed for these tasks drop by more than 50%. It just goes to show you, these agents aren't just for automating simple things, they can tackle incredibly complex, huge projects.
Now, these case studies are really powerful, but there's a really important point here.
You can't just plug these incredible new agents into your old, clunky ways of working and expect magic to happen. To really truly unlock their power, you have to reinvent the entire workflow from the ground up.
Let's use a call center as a perfect example. At level 1, you're just using Gen AI to assist your human agents. Maybe it's summarizing calls for them or finding knowledge-based articles. The productivity gain here is pretty small, maybe 5 to 10%. It's helpful, sure, but it's not a game changer.
Okay, now let's go to level 2. Here you enable an agent to automate a few specific tasks inside your existing process. Maybe it categorizes a support ticket automatically. The gains are definitely better. Now you're seeing a 20 to 40% improvement, but you're still stuck playing within the boundaries of the old workflow.
But look what happens at level 3. This is where you completely reinvent the process around the agent. Now the agent is proactively detecting problems, it's initiating the resolutions, and it only brings in a human for the most complex, unusual cases. The impact here is just transformative, a 60 to 90% reduction in the time it takes to solve a customer's problem. You see, it's not about adding AI to the process, it's about redesigning the process around AI. And that brings us to the big, strategic question for every leader out there. How do you actually go and capture this incredible value? Well, it's going to take a fundamental shift in mindset, moving away from just dabbling and experimenting with AI and toward industrializing it for a full-on transformation.
The source material really lays out 4 key shifts that have to happen. It means moving from a bunch of scattered one-off AI projects to a single, unified strategic program. It means you have to stop just optimizing tiny little tasks and start reinventing entire processes. It means breaking down those siloed AI teams into nimble, cross-functional squads. And finally, you've got to move from endless pilots and experiments to an industrialized delivery model that's built to scale.
As the report puts it so well, the time for exploration is ending. The time for transformation is now. That's a pretty clear call to action for anyone in a leadership position.
And so that leaves us all with one final critical question to think about. It's really the core takeaway here. Is your company just using AI, just bolting it onto your old familiar processes? Or are you getting ready to be rewired by it? Are you ready to fundamentally rethink how you operate around this incredible new capability? Because honestly, the answer to that question is probably going to define the winners and losers of the next decade.